I can't do it. I can't do the show. I'm too tired. I really am. It's like I can't tell if it's life or if it's art imitating life or if it's art imitating life, imitating anchovies. Would someone please take these away from me? Yeah, please, help yourselves.
No.
Gee, this looks good.
Yeah. Can we order out for pizza?
You know what this reminds me of? That Peter Greenaway movie, A Zed and Two Knots, where he keeps taking pictures
really
of. Maybe I should wait for you to get finished eating.
You sure these are dead?
Don't tell us. Yeah, I think I saw one quiver there.
Maybe they are dead. Have you smelled one of these? You know they're dead.
Simulated food product. You don't care for any?
Are you
Great.
sure? They're really good. Like a fine Cuban cigar. No, actually,
Not for rich.
this is art. Or were you pulling my leg?
No, it's kind of Van Gogh meets Chicken of the Sea.
Hey, you did tell me that was art. You weren't pulling my leg, were you?
No, not at all. Not at all.
So how do you do? You don't really do paintings. I mean, art pieces with anchovies.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
In fact, he's not really
They
an
don't
artist.
really look like this, though. They look more like paintings, you know?
Yeah.
Everything
I
is
glue them
art?
on the wood and then cover them with acrylic gel and then paint over them.
No, what do you
You
bake
glue
it at?
the
What temperature do you bake
anchovies
that
on
at?
the wood?
No, wait a minute now. What, you really do? You glue anchovies? Mm-hmm. This is the problem with artists, see? It's
You
like
never know if they're
exactly.
joking or not.
I mean, look at me like this guy is such an idiot.
just putting
I
it
can't
over on
believe it. He really thinks like
I know, is he serious?
Ask him about his Dead Cat series, though. That was really successful.
Now listen, I've got a friend who does things with dead animals. Every time a friend of hers, Candy Welsh as a matter of fact, if you find a dead animal like a bird or a squirrel or I don't care if it's a possum, you have to get it and get it in a bag and bring it to Candy's house because she'll make an art piece out of it. And she's not a taxidermist either. She's
She has to
well,
wait
she's
till they
psychotic.
stop smelling first.
No,
I don't
this
think
is the
that's
art.
part of it.
She, she also has a restaurant, doesn't it? Like
No.
Roadkill Special.
What's the look on their
That's a
face?
good environmental painting type. Huh?
But back to the idea of you know, does your art stink or not? I mean, when you cover these tiny stinking creatures with acrylic gel, it really like they don't smell.
Right.
Or is it just nobody's complained yet because they haven't been hanging in somebody's house long enough to start really smelling?
Good question.
Nobody knows. Have you been doing this for a long time?
Since July.
What made you?
Well, they would have started stinking by
In the
now. I
hot
mean, they
month,
stink
yeah.
right now. So I'm thinking, you know, they're...
Well, those
What
are
made you decide on taking
special
fish
aesthetic
as a
anchovies, though. I
medium?
mean, carefully picked
No,
for
you
lack
know,
of
I'm
smell.
starting to think about this, and it's like if you could stand the smell when you bought it, they probably don't get any worse than this. I mean, a dead fish, how much worse is it going to smell? It's dried, it's
They're
dead.
delicious. They're
Well, they-
very good.
Admittedly, it doesn't sound like something you'd like to eat, but they are.
Asians love
They are
this.
rather tasty.
They would
No
die without this.
Filipino.
I mean,
Eat
really.
the whole plate.
You are Asian,
We're
are
gonna
you?
need
You're
some-
obviously
I'm
quite
Filipino.
exotic. Where are you from? Finland?
Philippines.
Oh, the Philippines.
That's just a little south of Finland.
Because in Finland they paint their toenails blue.
I thought maybe you'd just been there and it was so cold. It was
We
turning
get
you
color,
blue.
man.
You know, these are good.
Artists of color.
How do you?
So are you all? Do you all have strange food fetishes, or what brings you all here today?
No, these are bad.
They're bad.
And they're bad for you, too, because they're loaded with salt and oil, probably, aren't they?
Well, lots of protein.
And
though.
blackberry
No
jelly.
salt.
That's the special part of the
Give away all my secrets.
Hey, we did order out for pizza, though, didn't we?
Now, David, you probably will be serving these at your open studio, I bet.
Oh, Terry, yeah, you ruined the whole thing for him. You think anybody's going to come to eat these things? Okay, that's off the list. They'll be at home with their little guide to
They will be on display with my other work, yeah.
with the open studio. They'll be sitting there going, David, guy with fish, no, off. You say 15 minutes, honey. We can go over there and run in the park for a few minutes. Linda, why don't you tell us something about this whole concept here? Because I know you're
About the open
master
studio.
plotter of the open studio.
Well, it's been going on for a long time. I
Although I
think.
should say, though,
Are you holding
actually,
this place?
Phyliss is the... Phyllis and Linda, I think, are both
Right.
master plotters.
Well, the only reason that I know about it is from being on the board at Washington Project for the Arts. They started that when I first moved back to Washington. I went to some open studios, and that was probably about 12 or 13 years ago. So they've been doing it for a long time, and then I think 3 years ago, it just got too spread out because the metropolitan area is just so big. So we got Arlington Arts Center involved and Rockville Art Place. And then it just took off and has a complete new life of its own, and it's really wonderful. So WPA does the Washington area artists, and then Rockville Art Place coordinates the Maryland artists, and Arlington coordinates the Virginia
And
artists.
you do like
Army Art
tours.
Center, you mean?
Yeah.
So
Well, what?
Well, in the
Lots of
past,
people-
in the past, there'd be a map that's printed out, and people would pick it up, and you could see where all of the studios are. But now, in fact, for the first time, we're having a very attractive catalog printed, and you'll purchase that for $5. It's a deal. I mean, these are gonna be valuable.
One of these days.
In one of these days. I mean. And it'll have a map of all of the participating artists, and basically just go and see whatever studio you want.
So it's
But-
actually going to artist studios, not to the art centers themselves?
No,
So
right.
it's like an
Both.
open house
Yeah.
in the concept of it?
Well, there will be sort of an exhibition in each of these centers. For example, if you are an artist from Virginia, you will have a piece in Arlington Arts Center. At the same time, you will have your studio open. If you're a Washington artist, you will have a piece at the Washington Project for the Arts, and at the same time, your studio is open. So all of these centers will have some kind of salon-type exhibition together with the...
Well, in fact, you'd go to the center to start and get for like the weekend that is for DC. You'd go to the Washington Project
So it's
for the Arts.
different dates for different, the three.
And that's where
Right.
you go to get your brochure.
Right, and then you'd go see, each one of the participating artists will have a piece on the wall, and you go and check it out and say,
Oh, I got you. They'll put it.
Yeah.
So you can see.
So you can go and
sample of
you
work
can
and
take
say,
a look
I
at
wanna
it
see
and
this,
say-
I want to go see this. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
dead
like a
fish.
catalog,
I
no?
love the concept. I'd like to see art
to
with
order
dead fish
this,
in it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are these some of the pieces that you're going to be bringing? I mean, hanging up in the center, or is this just typical sort of stuff that
Yeah.
you do?
There's
Let's
This
see
is
now.
Richard's and Phyliss and Casita's work over here on the easels.
And of course, this is
And
your
that's
work.
my work, yeah.
actually.
Let's see. Let's start with Phyliss. Now, talking about art is probably one of the stupidest
I know.
of human pastimes, but we could do that. People get money, I guess, to talk about art. Well, just tell me about your painting. Is it a painting or is it a screen?
It's a collage,
It's a collage.
and it's what I call it is a sketch for my paintings. When I started making my individual paintings into diptychs, I wanted the second canvas to just be a large circle. And rather than just take a large 72 by 46 inch canvas and put a big circle in, I decided I wanted to see it next to what I was doing with paintings. So I made a collage in scale and tested it out and decided that it would work. And so my paintings now are diptychs like that, and I do the sketches as collage. I used to be a printmaker, so there's etchings. The blue is an etching,
Right.
and the figure was an etching underneath, which I then drew over. And then all the papers died.
Well, the figurative form on the right then is that's collaged onto the purple background.
Right, all of it's collaged on. And then I dyed the paper, and I batiked the paper, and I do all kinds of things with the paper, and I tear it up and put it on.
So this is a finished piece by itself. I mean,
Right.
And even though it's a sketch for your
Right.
later painting, this is just as valid a piece to
Right.
you as the painting.
Right.
How big are the actual paintings?
Well, they come out to be 72 by 92.
That big,
Yeah.
Yeah,
inches, huh?
yeah.
And what medium are you using for the final painting?
Acrylic,
Acrylic
yes.
on paper? or-
On canvas.
On canvas.
Right.
Hey, where'd you get all the energy to do those kind of paintings?
They drain me. Then I don't do catalogs.
Okay, this on the left is really wild. This is like some sort of real metaphysical or...
Parenthood. It's just all about parenthood. Yeah, that's the title of it.
Parenthood.
The mom or dad swan, or that sort of androgynous swan, leading there's a little baby swan up there.
Oh, there is.
There's sort
Well,
of
it
a
could be
cage
small.
motif going through that, Richard. Are you a recent parent yourself? Or,
Oh, no, God forbid.
He just got out of jail.
I axe murdered my mother and father.
That's not really bad. That's not bad.
Are we filming?
All right, how about the lady-
They served me anchovies for like 10 years straight.
I can't believe you didn't break out before then. How about the lady with the rick-rack hair?
That's mine. It's a self-portrait. Can't you tell? It's a medium I use. I call the medium trapunto painting.
Right.
And what it is I will paint on acrylic or oil on canvas. And then I will stuff underneath, like quilting, and then I'll stuff over on the surface, which is the trapunto, means stuff it, you know.
Right.
So, and then I'll use all the needle point, like embroidery or mirrors and rickrack, as you say. And that's sort of the medium that I use. It's trapunto painting.
Where did it come from?
Trapunto actually means, it's a Sicilian word, and it really
is?
means stuff it. yeah,
Stuff
yeah.
it. So it's like in a
But-
Sicilian curse.
Yeah,
then.
but I,
You don't buy me art
thanks, guys. Great idea. No, but
You can bring your quilted painting to slumber party.
yeah, that's right. But because I've been using this for the last 12 years, and everybody says, "What do you call your work?" And I said, "I gotta make a medium for my work. You know, what could I? You can't call it anything, you know, because it involves sewing and embroidery and silkscreen and tie-dye and collage." So I said, because I stuff it, I said, trapunto, you know.
Trapunto.
Trapunto painting is the one.
It sounds kind of boring when I say it. Trapunto. Trapunto.
So,
It's nice.
so,
But I can see that it is a self-portrait because it's vivid and exotic looking, and so are you.
I don't know, Ellen looks like you too.
that's right.
Thank you,
That's
Miles. I
right.
never knew you cared.
Does she have the eyes? Does she have the eyes? That's right. Looks like you.
After I've been on my computer screen at work.
Naturally, I find this whole fish concept fascinating, and reading a lot about art, and which is just about as silly as dare I, as talking about.
Go for
Big
it.
one.
Reading about art. Let's say that you were going to have to explain how you came to this fishy medium you're in. Why? Why anchovies?
I guess basically
Whales
I'm
were too
painting
big?
for yeah. whales.
What do you say?
Whales were too big.
Kind of
Endangered.
endangered species.
But one whale.
That's true.
Okay, so you're sitting at home and you're doing your usual oil paintings of flowers and stuff, and suddenly you think, anchovies.
Exactly right. I was eating a pizza one night, and I've been painting for about 15 years. I just basically got stuck, and I had people looking at my work and saying, "Change your medium." And you know, you just start playing around and gluing things down. And I went to Lucky World and bought a bag full of dried fish. And I had no idea what I was doing to begin with, you know. And,
You mean when you started painting, or when you bought the anchovies?
Right. Well, both. But by and large, as I started working, I started to develop the idea of energy. So I mean, there's a perfect metaphor for energy and movement.
What are we going to see when we look at one of your paintings? Are they just colors? Do you actually put them down and do figurative type stuff on top of them?
I work basically abstract now, and I work between order and chaos. So I have all these little straight fish that line up in lines, and they become order. And then I have the little curvy ones that don't know where they're going. Absolutely. They become like chaos. So it's just a mix of energies. And after I glue them down and get rid of the smell, and I put patinas, I use graphite and things like that. So basically, here you go.
What do you mean?
You're showing Linda's legs.
I'm curious because I know nothing about visual arts, really. You know, you can tell me anything and I'll believe it, but it seems to me that
I'm one of the greatest artists alive right now. I mean, moderately priced, too.
I wonder if there's a trend here. I mean, when I think of a painting, I usually think of a flat surface on which paint is applied, sometimes so thickly that one uses one of those
Impasto
knife things,
palette knife.
and then it begins to acquire texture. But you're both starting with things that have created a contoured landscape upon which you are then applying other layers of pigment and stuff. So is that something new to modern art?
It's the
or-
environment, I think, that you are in. I'm into recycling a lot of things. You know, I put it in my work. Whatever I wear, I put it in my work, or whatever I see. You know, like buttons and shells and beads and whatever you have, I put it in my work because you have so much stuff, you know. What else can you do with it? So it's, in a way, it's a good idea to recycle and make it two-dimensional.
Now, is this something that you did you like go study art and learn how to do everything, or did you bring this? Is this part of your own culture that you see in this? Is it?
It's part of
what?
it's part of the inspiration I get from traveling. I travel a lot and I see a lot of stuff, you know.
Right.
And you carry these things, and you said you want to put it in your work to have texture. And you know, I go to India and I see all these mirrors, and I said, why do I put it in my dress when I can put it in my painting, you know?
Yeah.
Or you go to Africa and you see shells, and you say, those will be great in my work, you know? So it's something that you get and you collect, and then you eventually ends up in your painting. So
Why do you travel so much?
I like
You mean
it.
for fun?
I like it.
Well, I like it too, but I can't travel all the time.
Be an artist.
Art research.
I guess being an artist means you don't have a regular job, so if you've got any money, you can just
beg your
travel when you. I mean,
Good for you, Patricia.
Yeah, right.
if you're get it out, it's time. I'm just protecting the lavalier. This is not for my own safety here. So,
Anyway.
well, that was a lot of fun. I got a lot of that.
Richard had a deep sigh over here. You sound depressed, Richard. What's the matter? Is the competition making you nervous? Or?
That was kind of a.
No, I'm sleepy.
Oh,
You sleep.
I stayed up all night last night. I'm so excited about Open Studio that I can't sleep. I mean, it is such an exciting.
great.
You know what we
concept.
really ought to do? Because we're going to roll a clip of the ad for last year's.
Last
But
year's,
since
yeah.
it's got all the wrong dates on
Right,
it, let's
ignore the
hammer into
dates.
everybody's head that's watching this what the real dates are. And you know them?
I know them. I know
Phyllis
them.
knows them.
Yay, Phyllis.
Okay.
Go for it.
The first open studio will be April 17th, and it will start in Washington, D.C. And if you want, you can start your tour at the WPA. And the 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. And all the tours, all the open studios will be 2 days, but the artists will only have their studio open 1 day. So it will be one group on Saturday, April 17th, another group on Sunday, April 18th. Then the following week, the open studio tours will be in Virginia. And that will be April 24th and 25th, again from 11 to 5. And then the last weekend will be in Maryland, and that will be May 1st and May 2nd, again from 11 to 5. And the geographic area is incredible. We have over 250 individual artists participating. There are at least another 100 in groups that will be participating. The catalog, as Richard had mentioned, is going to be 156 pages, with each artist having a half page and almost every artist having a half-tone reproduction. And some people are wondering why they have to buy a catalog, which you don't, but in the catalog there will be directions to every single artist's studio. So you'll have their name, and the catalogs are also arranged geographically so that you can look and go from place to place and find that the next artist that would be logical for you to go and visit by geography will be in the catalog.
So you can have an efficient trip to buy your
Right,
art.
exactly. Or you can pick up and open up the catalog right in the middle and start anywhere.
That's a nice piece.
Isn't this a nice
She's
piece?
pretty
Great,
sly,
yeah.
isn't she? She's pretty sly.
You hid this in the book,
we-
so I
yeah,
would
we
stumble
only
across
have
it and
one
go,
piece.
We could learn some things from her. You know, it's really a great idea, though, because artists are basically treated as the bastard children of society, and people really don't get a chance to meet artists and find out what their spaces are like and what they have around them. Everybody knows the workplace of the business people and the
Yeah.
computers
Yeah.
and the pretty sterile environment. Well, the artist environment is thriving. It's very organic, and everybody's different, of course. They put things, you know, listen to Patricia, and
Right.
everything that she has around her, her space is very organic. And it gives people a little bit of chance to see the thinking process or the creative process.
Sure.
At least
So-
what sorts of things inspire you. And
Yeah, so it's not so distant and foreign. It's really a great thing to do.
I wish it were true. I think that in the world there are two types of people: artists and non-artists. And I include not just visual artists, but all the artists. And that people who don't get art or don't do it could go to a studio and watch you do the whole thing and never
And also a chance to
have
buy
any
cheap
idea.
work,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Get commercial on me. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Most artists, you know,
And of course,
Miles,
I want you to buy these
Miles,
things.
but the thing about open studio is that we have a lot of museums here and galleries.
Oh, yes, we
There
do.
are so many artists here
Right.
who are not in the museums or in the galleries.
Right.
So this is a chance for non-artists to come and see what they can get, what do artists in Washington do, and what kind of artwork.
Oh,
And
you
it's a
can't get in the
chance-
gallery, or
Yeah,
you haven't
that's
been able to
right,
get in the
that's right.
gallery. You get
because
people that go to
a
galleries.
lot of
to
them
come
are
to
not
your studio.
represented, you know. A lot of them are not in the galleries. you know.
Right,
So
true.
it's a good chance for artists to show their work.
But as David was saying, I think one of the interesting things about going to a gallery, going to an artist studio, is that you're really starting to see a bit how the creative process works. And I mean, if there's one thing that sort of distinguishes an artist from maybe some other professions is the whole creative process. And I think, usually you can get some sense of what the creative process is when you go to an artist studio and, see the materials that they're working with, and whether it's fish or collage or anything that's not nailed down with Sita.
So you think that makes people more empathetic then to the creative process, just seeing where it's coming from, the actual nuts and bolts of it?
It'll make
Yeah.
more sense
Yes,
to them.
Yeah.
It'll
and how
make a
they
lot more
live,
sense.
because a lot of people don't know how these artists live. I mean,
I would think if they saw how artists live, they would say, and son, if you grow up to become an artist, I will kill you. I will.
Well, there's way too many artists anyway, so this is sort of, keeps the competition down, too.
I grew up in a family with 4 or 5 artists in it. I mean, people that just painted all the time. And
How
of course,
lucky.
I never found it amazing at all, but I also never did anything about it until I was like 40 years old, and I thought, I got all these artists in my family, I have to learn how to draw myself. Then I did learn how to draw myself.
Would you look in the
for you,
mirror?
Mike.
Yeah, constantly. I figured as long as you're primping anyway, just do yourself. So you do fish. What did you do before that? Just regular paint?
Yeah, oil paint, alkyd, acrylic.
And you've always painted?
Yeah, pretty much so. Although right now I'm painting on large wooden panels. Sometimes I'll do canvas too. But I also, when I start my work, it's not so much painting as just sort of pouring and scraping. I'll usually lay the canvas or the wooden panel down, and I'll put acrylic, oil, furniture stain, enamel, fabric dye, food coloring.
Aren't you afraid of some sort of chemical reaction that'll blow your house up?
Yeah, then I'll throw a match on it.
You should wait till it's done before you put the matches to it.
Is all this some kind of protest against the limitations of two-dimensionality or something? I mean, why this urge to...
Actually, it's an encouragement of experimentation, you know.
You know what's going to happen. We'll get this.
Well, that's really at the root of my question, Pasita, because, is it because we feel so limited by
Well, part of
by
it,
the
I think,
straight
art
flat
has.
borders and the
I mean,
box?
I think in a way, art has sort of around the turn of the century. A big impetus for art was a reaction against the photograph. I mean, there'd been this movement towards realism, and all of a sudden you've got a photo image that's going to get as real as you're going to do it, and that's when you started seeing artists starting to push the boundary a little bit more in terms of how something's represented both on a two-dimensional surface, like through Impressionism, or you start pushing the boundaries in terms of shaped canvases or three-dimensional canvases.
And then 50 years later, or 60 years later, with Andy Warhol and Jasper Johns in New York, you started seeing two-dimensional paintings of two-dimensional objects, the flags, the labels, and stuff like that. And now we're going to three-dimensional surfaces with the fish and with the trapunto.
Of abstract
Of
forms,
abstract
yeah.
or non-figurative form. Well, that's figurative.
How liberating.
Well, I guess it is, except ultimately you get to a point where you've done a painting that's, we're going to go to holography and things like that,
Yeah.
And maybe once again we'll say realism is dead because, we've got holography, and that's even beyond photography. You can just reach inside. We can't do a painting that competes with that.
Well, look at Linda. She's doing video. I mean,
Right. Art is really, I think, now more about the process and about the ideas than just the form. I mean, I think when a lot of us were in school, it was the formal concerns were really, taught, and that's what you learned, the structural things and kind of technical things, aesthetic but technical. And now it's really more about the ideas, what you want to say and what you want to do. And
I always thought that was a much better idea. The guy that wrote The Graduate wrote another book about an artist who paints nothing but paintings of oranges. That's all he does. And he gets discovered because you're a genius and they want to sell his paintings for a lot, but he doesn't want to sell them. And it isn't because he thinks they're great, it's because he thinks they're waste. He says that the piece itself is the waste product
Of the process.
of the creative process.
Yeah.
But he's just keeping them because that's just waste. That's where he keeps his,
But I
which
think
is a concept,
yeah.
like it.
But a lot of people can have ideas. I mean, I think when you said there are artists and non-artists, I really think non-artists really can appreciate artistic ideas and stuff, you know, and it's not really just if you have the facility to create something. I used to paint and sculpt too, but I just thought, oh, I'm not really that good at this. I'm really good at getting the idea of what it's about, but I didn't have the patience for the, you know, the actual craft that goes into it, and the skill too. I mean, you just have to really develop that. So I got into film and video, which is
Requires almost no skill, doesn't it? Here's the camera. $10 for film.
Oh God, it's a completely
Did you get
different
that?
medium.
But going back to what you were saying, Miles, do you think the artist then bears a certain responsibility, a social responsibility for their work? I mean, you do, you know, and I love the way you recycle objects.
I always believe that an artist has a social obligation to the community.
In which case, what does that say about David? I mean, if these
Even
paintings
if-
start
even
to
if-
decay.
Yeah, point counterpoint.
Even if it's
I'm
to
not sure
outrage
if I
the
do either.
community.
Well,
Well, actually,
Even
I mean, I think, no, I think an aesthetic, at one level, an aesthetic experience is a positive experience, even if, you know, if an artist is painting something that somehow uplifts the viewer, just makes them feel better by looking at it, I mean, I think that's a positive social,
I think if it drove them mad, it would be a great art piece, or if it drove them to
Well, it depends on who
murder
you're
or
driving
suicide,
mad.
It would be great. I mean, no, I don't.
well, I mean, that's what I think art is. It's about engaging somebody and making them think and sort of being a little bit more aware of either their mental processes or the world around them.
So that's where
if
the
it's-
responsibility
so,
lies.
well, yes.
No,
So
your
if it's
responsibility is to make great art, and
Right.
you're the
I mean,
only person
yeah.
who knows
It
whether
doesn't
you're
have to be great.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, but you should aspire to it, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
What's the point
I
doing
think
anything
that,
else?
you know, like
Fish
the
are too expensive.
newspapers or television, they have something about refugees or immigration coming to the country. Well, if I'm doing a series on immigration, you know, of the people of color, I mean, this paper, tomorrow, you forget about it, but you can have it in your living, I mean, you have it on your wall, and you look at the piece and you said, my God, I didn't realize we had so many Vietnamese this time, you know, I didn't realize, but painting is like a reminder to a lot of
increase
people.
awareness
Of
and-
course,
yeah.
yeah. And I believe that, you know,
Well, I think
my-
that's
Many
certainly one of the
different
uses for
concerns, though.
art.
I mean, I
Exactly.
don't really have a particular social awareness about my work, and I'm not interested in making a social statement. It's much different for me. There's a lot of social art, a lot of political art.
Sure.
Mine is more out of an art background.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's not like an art for art's sake. I mean, I'm very plugged into the flow of energy. When I spoke earlier of energy, chaos, you know, look at the world, it's crazy.
That's
Right.
right, yeah.
You know, but it's my way of understanding that insanity.
And yet some of it is real ordered, too.
And some of it's very ordered, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, it deals a lot with those things, but it's understanding those things through visual experience.
There seems to be a return now to order in artist work. There's a lot of chaos, and this idea of chaos and order seems to be very important to artists. And I think the past several years, as the changes have come about in Eastern Europe and in Russia, and the violence that we see here, more and more artists are going toward order and needing order.
Well, thank God, or thank the forces or the creative energies.
God is
because
all
I
right.
think that
If he's not out there, it won't bother anybody.
But it's nice then, that maybe shows the delineation between artists and non-artists. It's the artists who are here to help us try to stay sane in a crazy world. So we thank you for being with us here on
I'd
Slumber
be just as
Party.
happy to drive him crazy in a song.
And we'll try to come and see you in your studios. Yes, you can go to sleep now. Okay, you did good.
Stayed out.
It's fish time!
And we're good.
You know what's really weird?